Okay, so you sent over this collection of Darius Foroux's Stoic letters, specifically the ones called Focus on What Matters.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I was really intrigued. I mean, you always send over really interesting stuff, but
Glad you like this one. Yeah, I thought this is a good one.
I'm really excited to dig into this one with you and see what kind of insights we can get from this and how we can actually apply it to our own lives. Because I think
absolutely
that's the goal. You're looking for. You said you want to get informed quickly and thoroughly, and that's what we're going to try to do with these letters.
Yep, that's it.
So, what I found really interesting is that Foroux discovered Stoicism during kind of a rough patch in his life.
He did, yeah, and I think it really speaks to what Stoicism is about, because it's not just this kind of theoretical thing that sounds good on paper or in a book, right?
Yeah.
It's something that's really for
dealing with
real
life issues.
Yeah.
And he was going through a lot. I mean, he had his grandmother passed away. A relationship ended.
Right.
He was switching careers, like a lot of big stuff all at once.
Wow.
And so it just makes it kind of, I think, a little bit more real. And I think we've all been through those periods where we have a lot going on. And so it's good to have some kind of tools to deal with it.
Yeah. And the main theme that stood out to me from these letters was this idea of finding balance. Not just this kind of inner peace that isolates you from the world.
Not just withdrawing, right?
Right, yeah. But also achieving your goals, finding success in your life. And the key link between those two seems to be directing your energy towards what you can actually control.
Absolutely so true.
Right.
And that's the kind of fundamental thing in all of these letters, is focusing on what you can control. And if you think about it,
that makes so much sense, because like, how much can you really control what other people think, what other people do, and all that stuff, right? Like the only thing you can really control is yourself.
Right.
So that's what he really focuses on in this book. And he structures the book in a very helpful way. I think he divides it into two sections.
Okay.
The inner world, which is all about gaining mastery over your mind.
Right.
And then the outer world, which is really about shaping your own destiny. And he makes it very clear right from the start that mastering that inner landscape is the foundational step.
Yeah.
Without it, you're just going to be knocked off course by every little setback.
Right. So let's dive into this inner world then.
Let's do it.
A major theme he addresses is how to deal with these really tough emotions, like anxiety and fear and disappointment.
Yeah.
He has this really striking quote from Seneca. He says, cease to hope and you will cease to fear.
I love that one.
Right. That's deep. A little hard-hitting.
It is, yeah. But if you think about it, though, it's like, if you're not hoping for something, then you won't be afraid of not getting it.
Right.
So really what it is about detaching from specific outcomes.
Okay.
It's not about giving up on your goals or anything. It's just about loosening the grip a little bit on those expectations.
Okay.
And understanding that external events are often outside our control. And I think if you can do that, it's going to make you a lot more emotionally stable.
Right.
He gives the example of like investing in Bitcoin or something like that, something that's really volatile.
Yeah.
And if you kind of mentally prepare for the possibility of loss, then if it happens, it's not going to trigger such a powerful fear response.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like mentally rehearsing for a potential negative outcome.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have the same emotional impact.
Yeah.
And then he brings in Epictetus, who really challenges us on
Epictetus is great.
The unrealistic nature of some of our expectations.
Yeah, he doesn't mince words.
Right.
No.
Especially when they involve things that are completely beyond our influence.
Right.
So expecting loved ones to live forever.
Yeah.
Or everyone to always be honest with us.
Yeah, or like, expecting the bus to always be on time.
Right.
Those kind of things.
Those everyday annoyances. Even.
Yeah, exactly.
So Epictetus says when we tie our happiness to these external factors that we can't control,
which is what most of us do,
we're essentially setting ourselves up for disappointment.
Right.
Yeah. Because we're just going to be disappointed all the time if we expect everything to go our way.
Yeah.
And this leads to the Stoic practice, which might seem a bit odd at first, of actually reminding yourself of potential negative outcomes.
Right. Like the fact that your loved ones won't be around forever.
Right.
And it's not about being morbid. It's more about adjusting your expectations.
All right.
And Foroux even suggests it can lead to like better behavior.
Yeah.
in the present.
Right.
You know,
Like appreciating the time.
yeah, exactly.
Lyrics.
Appreciate the time you have and not taking it for granted.
Right.
And not sweating the small stuff as much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So another really practical aspect of the inner world that he touches on is how to find motivation.
Especially when you're in a slump.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially when you're in a slump.
Right.
Foroux shares his own strategy, which I thought was really simple but effective.
Yeah.
And that's to turn back to learning.
Just go back to basics.
Yeah, just keep pursuing knowledge.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really interesting because it's not about necessarily applying that knowledge immediately.
Yeah. Right. It's not about, like going and doing something with it right away. It's just about nourishing your mind and kind of building a reserve of resources for the future.
Yeah.
He gives an example of like reading about investing. You might not need that knowledge today, but having it in your mental toolkit and can be really valuable later on.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could potentially even change your financial future.
Right.
But really, it's just about the inherent value of learning and expanding your understanding. And that's like a very stoic thing, right?
Yeah.
The Stoics were all about virtue being its own reward.
Right.
So in that sense, learning is an act of self-improvement. It's not about the external payoff. It's about bettering yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it shifts the focus from immediate results or external validation to the inherent value of expanding your understanding.
Right.
Foroux also touches on a key idea. When you're feeling restless or down, the answer might lie in shifting your mindset.
Oh, I love this one.
Rather than
instead of just
your surroundings.
Yeah, changing your surroundings.
So he refers to Seneca advising Lucilius to change his attitude, not just seek a change of scenery.
Not just go on vacation or something, right?
Right. Yeah. And that really resonated with me because I think we often think that a different environment will magically fix our internal frustration.
Like, I'm sure everybody listening has had this experience where they think, if I could just move to this place or go on this vacation or buy this thing, then all my problems will be solved.
And then you get there and you're like, wait a minute.
Right. And then you're like, I still feel like...
Yeah, you take yourself with you.
Like you bring your problems with you.
Exactly.
And Foroux cautions against simply blaming external factors for our feelings of frustration.
It emphasizes that inner peace is actually accessible right where you are.
Right here, right now.
If you can adjust your perspective.
It's all about shifting your perspective.
Right. And then there's this section about the importance of...
This is a good one.
Observing and guarding your mind.
Yeah, this is getting into...
Like he has these powerful self-reflective questions from Marcus Aurelius. My mind, what is it? What am I making of it? What am I using it for?
I love Marcus Aurelius. He's like the OG self-help guru.
Yeah. Right. Amazing questions to ask yourself.
It's so basic, but it's so important. Right? It's like really just taking a look at what's going on in your head.
Yeah. Are you using your mind in a way that serves you? Or are you just getting bogged down in unproductive thoughts?
Letting it run wild.
Yeah.
Like a wild horse.
Right. Like dwelling on the past too much or excessive daydreaming.
Yeah.
And to help with this process of observation, Foroux highlights journaling as really valuable.
Journaling is
And he suggests focusing your journaling around specific questions or challenges you're facing.
It's a really good tool for this because it's like you're making your thoughts visible.
Yeah, you can actually see
them. You can look at them objectively.
And he even shares his own experience of using journaling to...
Analyze his mistakes.
Yeah, analyze his mistakes as a stock trader.
Yeah, as a trader.
Specifically, this tendency he had to average down.
Oh, averaging down, yeah. It's a classic mistake.
So what does that mean, average down?
Averaging down is basically when you buy more of a stock that's going down in the hopes that it's going to come back up.
Okay.
But it's usually just throwing good money after bad.
Oh, so it's like...
And that's what he was doing.
You're trying to convince yourself that it's going to turn around.
You're trying to, make your losses smaller.
But usually it just makes it worse.
It can make it worse.
So through journaling, he was able to identify this.
He was able to see the pattern.
Right, this emotional bias of wanting to...
Of not wanting to admit that he was wrong.
Yeah, not wanting to admit that he was wrong.
Yeah.
And hoping that the stock would recover.
Right.
And by seeing that pattern on paper, he could then consciously apply...
Stoic principles.
To manage that behavior.
To manage that behavior, exactly.
It's a great illustration of how making your thoughts visible can
Yeah, it brings clarity.
bring clarity.
Right.
And he then brings in Jesse Livermore.
Oh, Jesse Livermore.
Who is
legendary trader.
Right, this legendary stock trader.
Yeah,
And
one of the best.
he emphasizes Livermore's need for continuity of thought.
Yeah, continuity of thought.
And highlights the importance of relying on your own judgment.
Yeah, not getting swayed by the crowd.
Rather than being overly influenced by
the opinions of the crowd.
The opinions of the crowd.
Yeah.
Foroux even shares his own practice of intentionally limiting his interactions within the publishing world.
Within the publishing world.
To maintain
independent thinking.
Independent thinking. Yeah. And that's a really interesting point, because we often think that being around a lot of people in your field is going to
help you.
But he's saying that.
But it can actually hurt you.
It can actually hurt you.
Yeah.
Because
if you're not careful,
you start to think like everyone else.
You can get groupthink.
And you lose that independent perspective.
Exactly.
And then there's this really funny anecdote about the Celtics fan.
The Celtics fan.
Who knows every minute detail.
Everything about the team.
About the team.
The players' personal lives.
Everything.
The stat.
But how that knowledge ultimately has no impact.
Zero impact.
On the team's performance.
Doesn't change the outcome of the game.
Or his own well-being.
Right.
Right. And it really highlights the idea of guarding your mind against
irrelevant distractions.
Yeah.
It's about like being discerning with your mental energy.
Right.
What are you focusing on?
Yeah.
Is it actually serving you, or is it just consuming your attention without adding any real value or peace to your life?
Absolutely.
Right.
So this leads naturally into the topic of
single-minded focus.
Yeah. And avoiding distraction.
Right.
And Foroux connects that feeling of being at your best with being fully engaged in an activity.
Yeah, when you're really in the zone.
Yeah, like in the flow.
Yeah.
In the flow state.
And he emphasizes the role of personal passion projects in maintaining that focus.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
And that sense of control.
Because it gives you something that
you're in charge of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that you can control.
It's something you can control, and it's something that you're passionate about, so it's going to keep you engaged.
And he makes the point that a lack of a big goal can contribute to that feeling of stagnation.
If you don't have anything to aim for, then you're just kind of...
You're just drifting.
And
he shares his own experience of achieving
intense focus
to complete his book.
He was on a mission.
Writing more in 1 month than in the previous 6.
Wow.
Illustrating the power of concentrated effort.
Yeah, and he talks about David Goggins, too.
Oh, yeah.
Who's all about...
the ultimate...
that singular focus, right?
Goggins is...
like extreme focus, right?
But he also acknowledges that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
It's not a balanced life necessarily. So you have to make choices. Yeah, you have to choose where you want to...
where you want to put your energy.
Direct that focus.
Yeah.
And Foroux suggests aiming for a balance between a few key priorities.
Right. A few things that are really important to you.
Work, exercise, family. Yeah, those kind of things.
And he defines an unhealthy mind as being worried, inconsistent, unfocused, insecure.
Right.
And he contrasts it with a healthy mind.
Which is the opposite.
Which is peaceful,
yeah,
consistent, focused, secure.
Yeah.
And that distinction I thought was really helpful, because a healthy mind isn't one that never encounters challenges.
Right. It's not about being perfect.
Right. It's just one that doesn't get consumed by
things outside its control.
It's outside its control.
Right.
Or unrealistic expectations.
Unrealistic expectations.
And it maintains a sense of composure.
Yeah.
Even when mistakes happen.
Even when you screw up.
Right.
He brings in Aurelius's examples of unhealthy thought patterns. Like constantly worrying about the well-being of your children.
Which you can't control.
Or feeling the need for everyone to approve of you.
Or everybody liking you.
Right. Things that are ultimately outside your direct influence.
Yeah.
And this leads him to emphasize the role of philosophy itself.
Right.
In guiding us toward
a good life.
A good and healthy life.
A good and healthy life, yeah.
And he references his own realization about unhealthy relationship patterns that he learned from his upbringing.
So he's using philosophy to examine his own life.
Right.
And see where he's getting
changes now.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next letter explores the concept of knowing thyself and acting accordingly. And he shares this really funny anecdote about purchasing an SUV
Yeah.
based on an idealized image of the lifestyle he wanted.
Instead of his actual needs.
Right.
Yeah.
Rather than his actual
what he actually did.
day-to-day needs and preferences.
Yeah. So like we all do that.
We all do that.
We get caught up in these ideas of who we want to be.
And then we buy things
that
we
don't need.
actually aligns with our lifestyle.
Totally.
And he emphasizes that while we possess an inherent understanding of ourselves, we often lack the confidence to live in alignment with that self-knowledge.
Self-knowledge, yeah.
Due to fear of judgment.
We're afraid of what other people think.
Or social pressures.
Yeah.
He then brings in Epictetus's advice to consider what comes before and what follows after.
Before taking action.
Before taking action.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really good advice because it's about making deliberate choices.
Yeah.
Thoughtfully, considering the consequences of our actions.
Not being impulsive.
Right. Rather than just jumping into things based on
enthusiasm
or fleeting desires.
Yeah.
And he has this example of people who moved out of cities.
During COVID.
During the early stages of COVID.
Yeah, everybody was doing that.
Only to regret it later because
it didn't actually align with their lifestyle.
It didn't align with their fundamental enjoyment of city life.
Yeah, they thought they wanted to live in the country.
Right.
But they didn't really.
And it really highlights the importance of being honest with yourself about your true nature.
Yeah.
Your desired lifestyle.
And what you actually want.
To avoid unnecessary disappointment, sadness, and waste of resources.
Yeah, bad stuff.
And he provides some key self-assessment questions to consider when facing big decisions. So he asks, what are my desired outcomes?
Good question.
Does this align with my core identity and values?
That's a huge
Do I have the necessary skills?
Practical.
Will I genuinely enjoy this?
Yeah, that's important.
And how does this fit into my ultimate goals?
I love those questions.
Right. So these are really practical questions.
Yeah.
I encourage you
to think deeply.
Think deeply.
About what you're doing.
About your choices.
Yeah.
Okay. Shifting gears to inner strength and self-worth. Foroux discusses the common tendency to view challenging periods
like 2020
as being somehow wasted.
Like a lost year.
Right.
Yeah.
But he emphasizes the opportunity we have to actively reshape our self-narrative.
You can always change the story.
Right.
Yeah.
He shares this powerful realization that if he had the power to tell himself to give up on his blogging aspirations, he also possessed the power to tell himself to persevere.
That's so true.
Right.
Yeah, it's like we have so much power over our own minds, but we don't always realize it.
Right. And it really underscores the power we have in shaping our own internal dialogue.
Internal dialogue.
We have the power to choose how we frame challenges.
Yeah.
As insurmountable setbacks.
Or as opportunities.
Or as opportunities for growth and building resilience.
Yeah.
He makes the powerful statement that you create your own life story.
You write your own story.
And that we have the ability to shift our attitude.
At any moment.
At any moment.
Yeah.
He then brings in Seneca's insightful quote about nothing truly deserving admiration.
Oh, yeah.
Except the mind.
Mind is everything.
Especially in the context of resisting the pull of materialism.
Oh, yeah.
During things like Black Friday.
Yeah.
And Cyber Monday.
All the consumerism.
Yeah. And he says, think that nothing deserves admiration except the mind, which being itself great counts nothing else as great.
Love it.
Right.
Yeah.
So your inherent worth isn't defined by
what you own.
Your own. And the relentless pursuit of material goods can trap you in a
race,
a never-ending cycle of wanting more.
Exactly.
He shares a personal anecdote about wasting time and money on unnecessary workout gear.
Yeah, I've done that.
To illustrate the importance of
mindful consumption.
Yeah. And reminding us that our sense of self-worth shouldn't be tied to
what we buy. Yeah.
So finally, in this inner world section, Foroux addresses standing behind your values.
Yeah.
He shares his experience of leaving a social gathering because he felt uncomfortable.
He didn't like the vibe.
With the overall energy, the values being expressed by the group.
He wasn't feeling it.
And he brings in Epictetus's powerful quote.
Epictetus says.
About striving to be the same person, whether you are alone or with others.
I love that one.
Right?
That's so important.
So powerful.
It's about integrity.
Yeah.
You know, being true to yourself.
Yeah. Being true to yourself no matter what.
No matter who's around.
All right, so we've explored this inner world.
We went deep.
Let's turn our attention to Foroux's insights on navigating the outer world.
The outer world.
And the first key point he makes is about making your own decisions.
Yeah.
And the common tendency to stray from our own initial judgments due to the
influence of others.
Influence of others.
Yeah.
And he uses the example of career choices being heavily influenced by family expectations.
Classic example.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people have
I'm sure everybody listening has been through that.
been through that?
Yeah.
Where their parents
or their friends
want them to be a doctor or a lawyer
or whatever.
And they're like,
I don't want to do that.
I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to be an artist.
Exactly.
And he wisely cautions against excessive second guessing.
After you've made a decision.
After you've made a decision.
Yeah.
And highlights how the attempt to please everyone can ultimately be detrimental to your own
sense of self-worth.
Right. So you've got to please yourself. Right.
Yeah.
The next letter delves into the impermanent nature of possessions and life itself.
Yeah.
Foroux uses Seneca's powerful analogy.
I love this one.
Of life being like a journey on a ship.
The ship analogy.
Where we have